Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of the 4-part series of Everything Rises and Falls on Leadership. In part 1 we talked about the definition of leadership, which is leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Part 2 we discussed how to increase your influence, which is by providing value, and that the size of your influence is determined by the size of the value that you're able to provide. So here we are now in part 3, and I'd like to share with you what I believe is the most important element in leadership, and that is communication. In this day and age, where what I like to call the age of distraction, because there are so many different ways that we are able to communicate to one another other than just by face-to-face or over the phone. We have email, we have text messaging, we have fax. Well, I don't know if people really fax anymore, but we have the instant messenger, and then all the different social media sites that we use to communicate back and forth. So all these different ways of communicating. But in order to effectively communicate with someone or to people, all comes down to how you connect. That's where the value is in communication, is the ability to connect with people. And John Maxwell has a book that I like to do a workshop on, which is Everyone Communicates, Few People Connect. It's one of my favorite workshops. And I think the main reason why I love doing this workshop regarding communication is because I feel I am the product of the product. I grew up a shy, introverted person. How would you feel about a shy, introverted person being an influence on you? Probably not that much, right? Think about the people in your life that influence you. The business leaders, leaders in politics or government, your role models. How do they communicate compared to someone that is shy and introverted? I remember not being real confident when I spoke to people. Or sometimes I wouldn't even look people in the eye. I'd have my head down and when I spoke. And even if I have a loud voice, I still spoke softly. I always felt I was good looking growing up, right? I was a pretty good looking guy. I felt like I carried myself well, but as soon as I spoke, the whole perception of me can change. Have you ever met someone like that where you felt that they were good looking, attractive, and as soon as they spoke, their whole demeanor changed and changed your whole perception of your attraction towards them? It's amazing that less than 3% of your communication are not the words that you say. It comes from how you're saying it, your body language, and your tone. So when you're going back to those leaders and the people that influence you, they're speaking with confidence. They know exactly what they're going to say, and they say it well, and they look you in the eye when they speak to you. Whereas someone that doesn't have much of an influence, they're lazy in their language and their approach, and maybe a little less confident in the words that come out of their mouth. So that's why I believe that communication is the most important element when it comes to leadership. Because the way you're going to communicate to others determines how you're going to be able to influence them. As I started growing my nonprofit, I look where I was in the beginning, and I understand now of why I got a lot of no's, because they didn't see the passion and the conviction and the vision from the shy, introverted guy. So I developed these leadership skills and my communication skills. As I mentioned in my first video, raising my leadership lid to now I'm more confident when I speak, and I have the passion and the vision that I convey to others on what I would like to do for the community. So just a couple more things regarding communication. You want to keep it simple when you speak to others. And the most important element regarding communication is not saying anything at all, but listening. I've always heard that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you want to listen twice as much as you speak, which means that you want to be sure that the person that you're communicating to has the upper hand, that they are more important that the words that they're saying are important. Pay attention. I was speaking with one of my clients earlier that I coach, and he's telling me I want to take a deliberate approach in how I communicate. Be intentional, which means I want to pay attention more to what they're saying. And that way I have more effective response. And not, it's all about what I want to say, is how am I going to communicate effectively to that person to help them reach their purpose, their goal, or the desire on which they want help in or a response to. So communication, crucial into increasing your influence, being a leader. So that wraps up part 3 in rising and fall on everything rises and falls on leadership. Now I'm a man of action. So we talked about the definition of leadership and how to increase your influence and why communication is so important. So we're going to take all this, wrap it up, and in the 4th video, we're going to discuss on how to take action. How to take everything that I've talked about and shared with you and take an action so you know exactly how to increase your influence. And I'll be there with you every step of the way. So stay tuned for part 4 next week on everything rises and falls on leadership. And as always, live with purpose.
I just wanna